Well, good morning, everybody. I'd like to start off today by kind of picking up from where I left off with last night's in-depth forecast here. So on Tuesday morning, we're watching a radar animation looking back over the last 12 hours or so. And we can see a slowly sagging front moving right here through parts of the eastern Corn Belt, stretched into New England. And then as it starts over, you can just see how widespread the storms were in parts of the southeast. We did get some storms that came through the southern plains, although it was very hit or miss in the overnight hours here. But take a look at the extent of the southwest monsoon just pushing that moisture up here through parts of Nevada, California, getting into Oregon and Washington. Now, seeing this recent rainfall and the position of these fronts, maybe just go back and look at what we've seen over the last 7 days. So I made this animation. It's going to be real clear for you to see in the report today, but it's 3 different images. It's the last 7 days of rainfall there. Then I masked it for 1 inch and then 2 inches. So look at that carefully in the report, because what I'm trying to assess here is I want to see who got the rain recently and who didn't across the United States. Because oftentimes when we see a map like this, it looks as though everybody got rain. But when you kind of break it down and realize that a lot of these colors are quite light amounts, you realize that it was really only a select few areas that really saw quite a bit of precipitation. And that leads me to another map that's in the report today, looking at the last 14 days of precipitation anomalies. So once again, we try to identify these areas, for example, throughout the Pacific Northwest that have been quite dry, and from Montana to North Dakota. This pocket here through Nebraska down into Kansas, stretching into northern Missouri. But look, it kind of extends. There's a large area in through here that outside of the heavy rains that just came through this pocket have missed out on some of the heavier precipitation. The influence of that southeastern ridge has really hit, well, really it's the Atlantic ridge, but it's nosed into the southeast, has really kind of made it quite dry here along the coast, and of course the prolific drought we've been dealing with in parts of Texas. Now, I've got better news for Texas with some recent model trends, so let's get to that. First, just another quick update on where our soil moisture anomalies right now are. So this is NASA data looking at soil moisture percentile, and again, it kind of identifies those same regions we just pointed out. Now, the most important part about this near-term forecast is the shift we're going to be seeing here in the jet stream pattern. So what I want to focus on is what's going on right here with this ridge, because through this week, playing into the weekend, that ridge really rebuilds and gains position here. So what this is going to do is this is going to light up the southwest monsoon, deliver ridge-running storms over the top of this, and then they're going to cascade around a broader trough that's sitting over the east. And that's going to be an important feature to watch, because from Friday through the weekend, getting into next week, we continue to see the forecast trends we talked about in the in-depth forecast last night. With the ridge rebuilding across the west, the trough that had hugged the west coast is kind of farther off to the west now, and the flow is doing something a bit like this. Now, what's important about this is what this means in the week 1 versus week 2 precipitation outlook. So let's go do that. Next 7 days, we see 2 things. The front that's sitting here continues to sag. It's still being fed on lots of moisture coming around, the stronger trade winds kind of building here and eventually becoming the westerlies. But you can see a big section here that goes over drier as high pressure starts to move in. Now, when the ridge redevelops, the southwest monsoon continues its impressive extent. We get these ridge-riding storms late this week coming in this area. I'd like to show them to you by going right to the high-res European model. So if we just play it forward, we see the front sagging first into the southeast. See the high pressure building in later this week on Thursday. But then what you're going to notice is as we work our way into Friday and eventually into Saturday, if I just kind of rock back and forth Friday into Saturday, this seems to be a robust feature in the model. Very important rainfall coming through there. But every day, just see that extent of that southwest monsoon. By the weekend, the ridge is fully established, so what you're going to see is just flashes of green showing up like this every afternoon. And we go into Monday. See it there? And there's the storms cascading over. So we're going to open this quarter up to more thunderstorm activity late this weekend into early next week. And then this continues out there into next week. But by the time we get into next Wednesday, Thursday, the ridge is now firmly established here. And the flow's coming over like this. And there's a broader trough in this area. And we're going to see increased rainfall chances in here once we get past midweek next week. So if you compare the week 1 forecast, which is here, and again, that features those main events coming around the ridge I talked about, drier in the interior, you see that by week 2, the ridge is now here. The heat goes into Canada. The southwest monsoon kind of gets a little bit squished. But with that broader trough over the east, we're going to increase the rainfall chances here, which is why I kind of labeled this in the models here as trending wetter. Okay, what's going on in the tropics? National Hurricane Center downgraded this to a 30% chance of development. We talked about how it's going to be kind of running into less favorable conditions here with higher wind shear. But let's finish this up with a quick discussion about temperatures. So today, on our all hazards weather map, we see that we have the red flag warnings in Oregon, the heat advisories, kind of painting the corners here, parts of New England and parts of the Northwest. I was looking at the Northwest as the sun rose this morning, but I was reminded yesterday we can see some of the wildfire smoke in Northern California, some of the fires that have come out in parts of Idaho, Montana, and getting up here to British Columbia and parts of Alberta. But it did produce a pretty hazy night last night. As we look at where the temperatures are going to change over the next few days, take a look at this. So here's today's highs compared to normal. What I've been really watching here is the split on the Mississippi River. So there's Wednesday's highs getting into Thursday. So the heat runs from the plains all the way back here into, the Pacific Northwest. The Northeast finally gets a break by Thursday. And then you just see here going into Friday and Saturday, the heat just stays in this corridor. And you come on that Mississippi River east, we tend to have cooler weather. And that might last all the way through, the weekend. So several days of very hot conditions in through here. And in the in-depth report last night, we talked about some of the drought expansion we could see in this area because of this pattern setting up. But watch this. 5-day sliding window of temperatures as we get out here. Let's stop this right there at day 5 through 10. That's the 14th through the 19th. And then watch it evolve for the heat coming into the Canadian Prairie West, the western United States, and the Pacific Northwest as we work our way into that third week of the month. Very different temperature pattern as that ridge we talked about really builds into the western United States. That's why I think this is the most important factor as we go forward. Lastly, if you get a chance to read today's report, I give a bit more of an in-depth discussion, kind of piggybacking off of what we talked about in the long-range report last night on La Nina and what its influence could be for this upcoming fall. And also, we compare it to the global models, new data for October through December. So I kind of packed it full for you today to take a look at, and I look forward to updating this again tomorrow morning, and we'll talk to you then. Thanks.